Welcome, age of vintage society. Delightful, daring and dramatic. This was the woman Hollywood cherished and loved. A woman who was talented like nothing the audience had ever seen. She could be hilarious and she could be sorrowful. She could be a diva and she could be a widow. Katharine Hepburn had it all. How Katharine Hepburn jumped from man to get fame. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Katharine Hepburn's cheating and twisting ways in Hollywood. Katharine Hepburn's career spanned over 64 years, with more than 50 films and 4 Academy Awards. She took on Hollywood and in the process became a legend, sometimes harassable, frequently outspoken, and always unpredictable. "I was born absolutely at the right time. That's the story of me. Great timing," she said. Katharine Hepburn is regarded as the greatest female star in the history of American cinema. Her over 6 decades of acting have been applauded on many occasions, and her record-breaking 4 Oscars for Best Leading Actress confirmed that she had something special. Something that only great stars have. But what is it? It is the fact that the characters she helped create were so multi-layered. That's why her career sustained for such a long time. An aura very few possessed, Katharine was able to arouse a certain addiction in her audience, which made them choose her over and over again. The best female lead of her era, Katharine's ethereal face was to be on the posters of the greatest movies of the time. Her presence was so demanding that one could not ignore the intelligent and witty woman, even if they tried their hardest. She was just that unique. "I don't think I'm eccentric. No, I'm just something from New England that was very American and brought up by 2 extremely intelligent people who gave us a kind of, I think, the greatest gift that man can give to anyone, and that is a sort of freedom from fear." Growing up, Katharine never believed in the norms of society. Her parents were very progressive and intelligent people, carefully guiding their daughter through the ups and downs of life with reason and wit. Katharine was what could be labelled in today's language as a tomboy. She could not understand the significance behind why girls had to wear skirts and be poised, or why she had to sit a certain way or laugh a certain way. And it troubled her when she saw boys being pardoned for doing things that girls would never hear the end of. So Katharine found her own ways to do things, in and out of the film industry, and to say she was admired for it would be an understatement. Perhaps one can say that this was why she kept ascending on the ladder to success, and had a special place in the people's hearts. From Bryn Mawr to Hollywood, Katharine transitioned magnificently through her career. "You see that face, those features, and that burning personality coming out of it," said director Dave Callett. Although most recognised the talent, the charisma and the provocative way in which she presented herself, Katharine was blind to it all. "I was lucky enough to have been born at a time when they wanted this, me, my whatever it is. I've got it. I mean, what is it? I don't think it's talent. I think it's just you've got to have a good hot motor inside you. It just ticks away and your eyes shine and your teeth shine." Katharine Horton Hepburn's life began on May 12, 1907 in Hartford, Connecticut. She was named after her mother, who was an early feminist and political leader. Her father, Dr. Thomas Hepburn, a noted surgeon, supported her and led his own life in legislative reform and public education about venereal disease. She was their second child, the oldest being a 2-year-old boy named Tom. Katharine idolised her brother, and the 2 children were inseparable. As Tom grew into a quiet, serious young man, his sister became an adventurous, daring, freckle-faced tomboy. Eventually, the Hepburns had 4 more children who were encouraged to speak their minds, and Kathy, as she was called by her parents, learned to hold her own. Mrs. Hepburn was active in the suffrage movement, leading the Connecticut fight to win voting rights for women. Katharine frequently accompanied her mother, passing out brochures and marching in the parade. She eventually turned down an offer to run for the US Senate. The Hepburns were leaders in radical causes which were not popular in conservative Hartford. The neighbours threw bricks through their windows, and the children were often forced to defend themselves in fights. I think it made me determined. It gave me a nice big chip on my shoulder, so I thought, God damn it, I'm going to go out and mount something. The Hepburns kept a summer home in Fenwick, an exclusive shorefront community in southern Connecticut. The beach house became a gathering place for the entire extended family. Athletic pursuits filled the summer days spent swimming, sailing and playing in the ocean. We were like a Chekhov play, it was great. We kept meaning to go to Hartford, but we never did, all summer, she said. In the spring of 1921, 12-year-old Katharine and her older brother Tom set off to visit their godmother in New York. On the morning they were to return home, Tom did not appear for breakfast. Katharine kept calling him, and when he did not answer, she thought he must be sleeping, so she went up to his room. At first, when she opened the door, she didn't see him. What she saw was what would horrify her into her last days. Her brother hung up by a curtain tie from the rafter. Tom was dead, his feet curled beneath him, clearly able to reach the floor. He had forced his own strangulation. Mrs. Hepburn heard the news at home in Hartford. When I was sitting in the dining room and the call came over the phone that Tom had died, Mother just slumped on the dining table, and moments later she regained her composure, and she never talked about it again. Their father refused to believe his son's death was a suicide and told the press that he had died while practicing a stunt, a fake hanging staged for effect. Her brother's death had a profound effect on Katharine. For the next 3 years she would brood and become nervous, suspicious and solitary. She refused to go to high school and finished her education at home by taking private lessons. She even adopted Tom's birthday as her own and made herself 2 years older. She tried to take her brother's place in the family. She finally left home in 1924 to go to college in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. Although she adopted a new name, Kate, she kept her antisocial behaviour. Unpopular with her classmates, she was failing miserably by the end of her sophomore year. She would be clad in trousers instead of pencil skirts, not knowing how big of an impact this was to have. In the summer of 1926, the quiet young woman shocked everyone and said that she was going to become an actress. Her father sent her back to Bryn Mawr in the fall. By the spring of 1928, Kate's grades had improved enough for her to participate in the school's May Day celebration, and eventually went on to do roles in several more student productions. In her senior year, she met 28-year-old Ludlow Ogden Smith, whom she called Luddy. Luddy lived near the campus and belonged to a social group that appealed to Kate. He came from a blue-blood Philadelphia family, and he was very charming and adored Kate. When she graduated, she set out for New York to become an actress, and by the end of the year she was married to Luddy. In New York, Katharine immediately attracted attention, more for her style than acting. Dressed in casual clothes and adopting a free-spirited personality, she became a regular in nightclubs and cultivated a position in a cafe society. She began to land a series of acting jobs in New York, but her outspoken attitude had an effect, and in just 4 years Kate was fired from 4 productions during rehearsals, never making it to the opening night. Katharine made it to Broadway in 1932, playing an Amazon queen in The Warrior's Husband, wearing a costume that accentuated her long legs, leaped down a flight of stairs and held her leading man. Hollywood soon took notice, and director John Ford made a screen test of Katharine, but nothing came of it, and soon she was hired for the main role for the movie A Bill of Divorcement, and was on her way to Hollywood in the same year. When the movie opened, audiences and critics fell in love with Katharine, and her performance earned her a long-term contract with RKO. She followed her debut with Christopher Strong, the story of a daring aristocratic aviatrix. During the filming, she began an affair with her agent, Leyland Hayward. He was married and was a well-known ladies' man. She continued her flirtation with Hayward and kept her marriage a secret. Luddy patiently waited for her to return to New York, convinced that her affair and career would soon be over. But Hollywood was enamoured with Katharine. Her uncharacteristically gentle performance in Morning Glory, only her third film, won her the Academy Award in 1933. She followed that with a dazzling performance in Little Women and stunned audiences by creating the perfect image of a modern independent woman. In late 1933, riding high on her film successes, Kate prepared for her triumphal return to Broadway. She chose a play called The Lake, directed by legendary producer Jed Harris, who was known for his cruel, vile treatment of leading ladies, and his handling of Hepburn was no exception. Her performance was a famous disaster, one that was to turn her life around and make it change for the better. I walked through the opening night in a state of absolute paralysed terror, and I kept praying, "Kill me, Lord, just kill me, strike me dead." And nothing happened, so I just went on the way you do, you know, and finally the curtain came down and everyone clapped, she explained. Her sudden lack of success extended into her marriage, and announced her plan to divorce Luddy and marry Leyland Hayward. Her relationship with Hayward broke off too, and more trouble followed. RKO cast her in a succession of historical costume pictures which flopped at the box office. In 1936 she began a relationship with Howard Hughes, an eccentric millionaire aviator, who pursued her with style and soon won her over. After a few more flop films, her studio began to loan her out to other studios, and she knew her time was up. She decided to part ways with RKO and bought out her contract. After 15 films in 6 short years, her career seemed over with no prospects. Katharine left Hollywood and returned home to Connecticut. However, she was never one to give up. A lot happened in the year of 1938. She turned down Howard's proposal, no directors approached her, and her Fenwick house was destroyed during a hurricane. Hepburn finally thought she'd found her comeback script, and with the help of her friend Philip Berry, she finished a play on the Hepburns' lives called The Philadelphia Story. When the play opened on Broadway in early 1939, Katharine desperately needed a hit to re-establish her career. The New York critics loved her, and Katharine Hepburn was a smash. She convinced Howard to loan her money and buy the play, and was able to work with Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart. The picture made almost $1.5 million and 6 Oscar nominations. Kate grabbed a hold of her career and in 1941 acquired a story called Woman of the Year and got Spencer Tracy to co-star with her in the romantic comedy. Katharine got whatever she wanted. She'd turn up in her traditional slacks, barge into their offices and give them hell. The success of Woman of the Year established Hepburn and Tracy as a team on screen and off. Their chemistry was so amazing that it fascinated audiences and riled up rumours about them having an affair. She was submissive with him and let him take the lead in everything, surprising friends and family. She began turning down films to be closer to him, and was seen only in Tracy Hepburn films. Their on-screen partnership was sizzling. In 1951, at the height of Spencer and Kate's success, tragedy struck the Hepburn family when Kate's mother died. She threw herself into work and went on to star in The African Queen, working with Humphrey Bogart. Her performance was a landmark in her career, and she landed an Oscar nomination for that role. She won her second Oscar in 1967, the year she lost Spencer, and accepted it in his name. She starred in several other films, winning her third Academy Award. She was back on Broadway in 1969, and then after her hit was replaced, which did not stop her, she appeared in television shows and movies. She was back in 1980 on Broadway for one last time. Her legend could be intimidating, but she put people at ease by her personality. That same year she starred in On Golden Pond with Henry Fonda, growing so fond of him that she presented him with one of Spencer's favourite hats. The movie was a hit and got her 4th Academy Award. In 1982, Katharine severely injured her left foot in a car accident. It left her slowed but still busy. She continued to divide her time between Fenwick and her New York townhouse, and made several more television movies. Katharine Hepburn's life has spanned almost 9 decades, her career more than 64 years. An unconventional beauty who spoke her mind, she forever changed Hollywood and generations of women. She was a champion of independence and stood up for what she believed in. She brought a dignity to women's roles that had not been there before. She enabled many actresses that followed her to achieve what they did. Full of ambition and courage, accepting any challenges that were thrown her way, she left behind a legacy of strong, independent women. From Fenwick to Hollywood, her struggles, constant determination, the will to never give up, and her talent was what brought her that far. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Katharine Hepburn's life seemed to be destroyed after her brother's death. Not even these Golden Age sirens had perfect lives. Why, Jane Russell knew heartbreak and tragedy far too well. You should get to know from this video.